Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Today is the day that the Federal Reserve are coming out and speaking and going to be giving us that much watched and anticipated rate hike. Is it going to be 75 basis points, 0.75%, or is it going to be a whole percent, 100 basis points? That is the big question of the day, and there's lots going on. We've got a lot more company earnings coming out today. We also had yesterday the IMF essentially slashing global growth forecast. So GDP is really just growth in terms of the economy. And a gloomy and more uncertain future lies ahead of us. This is why we've maintained the bias. We are not a macroeconomist. However, I'm very fortunate to have friends that are. And they've been right, really, where I've been wrong. You know, I got how the start of this year was going to end. And really, it's been a macro story since the start of the year. And it is still the case. And I'm going to be showing you that straight off the bat in this video. This, I believe, was shared by a guy called Trader SZ on Twitter. And what it's essentially showing you here is this is the S&P that you have in orange. This is something we've spoke about, that markets are all based around liquidity. So money coming in and out of markets. We've been banging on about it now for months. You know, at the end of the day, what drives price higher? People buying. What drives price lower? People selling. It's very, very simple. Supply and demand is just as much a factor here as it is in any kind of market or any kind of company in regards to how well or negative they do. Now, this essentially was originally The tweet is originally from Cross Border Capital. You can find him at Border, spelled BORDER, CAP. And what he's showing you here is the correlation between the S&P, which is in orange, and the US money market net inflows. And you can see we've had a decline in liquidity, money going into markets, and they have followed. So why am I showing you this on a crypto channel? Well, I'm going to show you right now. If we add the S&P onto here, you can see just how, so the S&P is actually in orange, and rather confusingly, Bitcoin is in blue. You can see just how tethered they are, and this is still the story. So all these bottom callers are basically hoping and praying that something changes. And that doesn't seem to be the case. We've had no indication of that, and that's why we keep on with our bearish short-term narrative until we see reason to switch. And we've had this approach for a long time now. Not years, of course, because we were in a bull market last year, but really, you know, since Bitcoin was around about 44K, we've been saying, look, risk off. We've also been warning of being cautious, although our position didn't reflect that before then. And now this is still the kind of mantra that we're preaching. And it's all to do with liquidity. And the problem that you've got is when the Fed, which are going to up interest rates, if markets take relief from a 75 basis point instead of a 100 basis point interest rate hike, it's false. Because a 75 basis point interest hike, where we're currently at 1.25, no, we're at 1.75 Fed fund rate, which is the interest rate set by the Federal Reserve. That takes up to 2.5%. Anybody that understands the repo market and what happened in 2019 will understand that the last time we got to this kind of an interest rate hike, something broke. I believe and feel like I'm just waiting for a Lehman's moment. I'm waiting for them to find somebody to blame for markets crashing and then them having to renege and go back to pumping markets. The good news for us is that's what we're watching for, and that's what we're going to try and capitalize off of. It's why I think, you know, my videos in many ways are quite important, because this is a crypto-eccentric channel. You guys know I'm a believer. I'm a lover of the cryptocurrency market. I really do believe in what's trying to be achieved here. But regardless of those beliefs, what you have to understand is that price is somewhat separate, okay? So it's not about what we believe necessarily, more about, you know, what's actually going on. And in the short term, unfortunately, I don't think it's a good outlook for any markets. Let's just take a quick look at the Asian market. Relatively down. Earnings yesterday, by the way, we had some huge ones. Microsoft and Google being the big ones. I think they both missed on earnings. McDonald's, I think, was slightly up given their international interest. We had Coca-Cola, General Motors, you know, of course, Alphabet, Microsoft. So we didn't actually have... Oh, we had Google as well. So we had huge days. Microsoft actually missed, and it was generally this consensus. Of course, we know we had a role in the S&P and, of course, the NASDAQ more importantly. And I showed you something yesterday where I was talking about the fact that, you know, we've never seen so many in regards to one ETF's inflows. The ETF's basically a short of the tech sector. Little bit worried that we're going to get the next roll here. And I'll tell you why. And it has everything to do with something called the Chaikin oscillator, or OSK. There's two versions of Chaikin, but this is the one that I like to use along with all my other indicators. You don't just want to trade solely off indicators, but more you want to sort of incorporate them and use them as a benchmark. Every time we've rolled here on this indicator on the daily, it's signaled the downtrend. We nearly had that yesterday. I think that may come, if not today, tomorrow or later on today. And if we get that roll, we're heading for the next spill, which in my opinion is going to take you towards your 15K region. Previously mentioned that we're between these kind of two areas of consolidation. And ultimately, you know, I don't think it's going to be long before we spill at least back down to here, but the chances are we dip a toe below it and then do something like this and potentially continue in this downtrend that we're in. And until markets get that bid, until we see money flowing back into them, there's no real reason to be expect a runaway bull market. Relief rallies occur, typically trader driven. You know, people try and capitalize on this. Often at the moment, the rallies that we've seen have been very short squeeze led. One thing I pay a huge amount of attention to is open interest. So at the moment, when open interest goes up, you know, and this is open interest over the daily for Bitcoin. This is on Binance. The direction of the open interest is up. The trend is down. Very supportive. And when you have these pullbacks in open interest, typically Bitcoin is going up and having these relief rallies. I think the relief rallies that we get are short driven. So what do I mean by that? So why would we have a rally if it's short driven? Short positions being closed and becoming forced buyers. That's what I'm trying to say here. So, you know, I'm just trying to keep it as real as possible. I know people don't necessarily like the kind of, it's not doom and gloom, because I think, look, you know, we're in a very good position in terms of an industry to invest in. You guys are going to make some serious dosh off this industry if you can time it right. You know, it's an emerging market that's yet to really flourish. But for now, we've got turbulent times ahead. And we spoke about how, you know, Bitcoin's never had to face this kind of an environment before. We had the IMF slashing global GDP forecasts. The IMF is now expecting the world economy to grow by 3.2% in 2022 before slowing to a 2.9 GDP rate in 2023, marking a downgrade of 4% or 40 basis points and 70 basis point respectively from April. Washington-based institute said the revised outlook indicates that downside risk outlined in earlier report were now materializing. They're always going to come up with this. This is why I feel like they're just waiting for something to blame. Is it what's going on over in other parts of the world? Is it something internally? We're yet to see, but there will be a Lehman that basically gets the blame for what I think is going to be the next crash. You know, I made a video talking about how the NASDAQ was going to come right off. It has. I got mocked for it at the time, and now people are going, maybe this is a little bit more serious than it's previously been. And you've got to remember, we've on the weekly just carried the EMA, the 200 EMA on the tech side of things, the equity side of things, and also Bitcoin. I think we're now going to enter a period where we bounced off it and we come back down and can't get, you know, back above it, and we see that further downside. That's my overall bias. Got lots of individual exchanges. Coinbase was one yesterday. You got Kraken investigated for alleged servicing crypto traders in Iran. Interesting. Also, we know the story with Celsius. You've got Duquan. He's going to be, I wouldn't like to be this guy right now, to be honest. You know, anyway. And you've got lots of other things going on. You know, we're edging closer to regulatory clarity. I think we had something about stablecoin, US stablecoin bill in process, but no action expected until the fall. They are going to allow stablecoins, and actually, I think from a US perspective, in terms of being the world reserve currency, USDT and USDC further their endeavors, because you have to back it with dollars. It kind of promotes the use of the US currency. Certainly, we're seeing a adoption of that in some countries where you have extremely high inflation. They're hedging it by getting into USDC, not necessarily Bitcoin at the moment, because often it's going down a little bit faster than the rest. So today you've got earnings to watch out for. You've got quite a few big companies. You've got Boeing as one. You've got the CME Group, which is going to be an interesting one. You've got Spotify. You've got Shopify. So the tech sector today may be in a bit of trouble. Although we did see, I think Tesla did quite well on their earnings. You've got Ford Motor, which is another huge one. You've got Meta Platform, which of course is, I think that's Facebook now, is Meta. And then tomorrow you've got the likes of Apple, Amazon, Pfizer, MasterCard. It's going to be a big week, and we've already spoken about all this and kind of filled you in on it. Anyway, that's all I've got for you in this one, guys. I am expecting more downside. Convenient where Bitcoin's bouncing, something I speak about daily in my Patreon with my Patreon members. Let's drop that to the 5 minute. You see where Bitcoin bounced, it bounced right on this kind of lower trend line. My opinion, this could continue a little bit. Maybe you put another leg here and then you come back down, smash it, and we start that next leg lower. All I've got for you in this video, guys. If you enjoyed the content, like us, always appreciate it. So, as a comment, if you want to check out my Patreon, there's a link in the description. Also, head over to Twitter and give me a follow for some more timely daily updates. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Catch you in the next YouTube video.